The FujiCast is an independent Loading Zone production.
Friday, 3rd of April.
The FujiCast.
Today, Kev, the kids would have been coming home from school.
Yeah, for Easter.
It would have been Easter holidays.
Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, incredible.
I said that to them earlier. I said, is it Easter holidays today? Not that it makes any difference now because you're home anyway. And their first thought was, are we still going to get Easter eggs? Oh, please, would you look outside the window, darlings, and see what's going on with the world? And they do appreciate that, but they don't want to miss their Easter eggs.
No, quite right as well.
There we go. How are you? From yesterday, you weren't too hot yesterday, were you?
No, I'm okay. Still a bit tired, but I'm all right. Yeah,
you had
plugging through.
Good amount of sleep?
About 16 hours yesterday.
16 hours? Oh, constant. That's what's called a pyjamas session, that is. Anyway, welcome to the FujiCast. It's the FujiCast daily at the moment because, usually it's the FujiCast every Monday, but we decided to open up to the community of photography as a whole, so you do not have to shoot Fuji. You can shoot whatever you like. We're just trying to talk about photography, these times that we live in, different genres, different things that affect you. And so for that reason, if you'd like to send in a question, then it is click@fujicast.co.uk. Good treat for you today, Kev. You're going to love I'm not going to call them all interviews, actually. It's kind of like a hangout, really. You'll love the hangout today.
Okay.
I want to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Stand by. If you could choose anybody that could second shoot your wedding, who would you choose? So choose a photographer that you think, I'm just going to risk it. I'm going to ask you. You might say no. It might be very, very famous. Who would you ask?
What, to work with me or to shoot my wedding?
No, to be your second shooter. This is why it's even more amusing.
I don't know. I never really thought about that.
So I'll throw mine in, for example. If I could be dead cheeky, this would be like a dream come true if Don McCullin could second shoot a wedding for me.
Don McCullin.
Can you imagine that? Hello, Mr. McCullin, sir. Very nice if you could come and shoot a wedding with me.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you can do all the group shots, mate.
I'm not sure he'd like to do that bit.
If we're going off the cuff like that, then I'd probably go for Elliot Erwitt, maybe, or Martin Parr.
Martin Parr. Why would you choose Martin Parr?
Well, because I love him, of course. Love his stuff, love his eyes, love his the way he sees things. I love his quirky nature. I love his humour. You
think it'd bring a real different side to the wedding?
Yeah, and also I don't think he'd take any prisoners either.
Do you think he'd be the sort of guy that would... there's reasons for me asking you this, by the way. Do you think he'd be the sort of guy that would... you know what it's like when we're shooting weddings, okay, and somebody comes up to you and says, "Oi, photographer," and gives you their smartphone and says, "Can you take a picture of myself and my girlfriend," or something like that?
Yeah.
You know those moments?
Yeah.
Do you like those moments?
Yeah, love them. They're the best parts of the day for me, of course, yeah.
What do you imagine that somebody like Martin Parr might say to somebody who said that?
How about no?
Do you think he'd say that?
I think he'd probably do it, but in his own quirky way. Perhaps he'd just press the return on the camera and take a picture of himself instead.
That's a sense of humour. Well, look, and you didn't know this at all before we started talking, so I have rather thrown this at you, and I'm so delighted you said Martin Parr, because today on the show, I have a hangout with a photographer. I recorded it around about an hour and a half ago, with a photographer who actually had Martin Parr second shoot a wedding for her.
Cool. Who was that then?
Rebecca Faith is her name, and she's in Somerset. You can't say Somerset or indeed Norfolk without going into some sort of strange accent. Yeah. So she... I won't tell the story. I don't want to ruin the story, but
no.
I'll tell you... You'll hear it in the hangout exactly how she got Martin Parr to second shoot a wedding for her. That is amazing, though, don't you think?
Yeah, incredible. I can't wait to listen to that.
Yeah. So, should we launch with the questions?
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's go with this one. Jonathan Kerr. I'm a wedding photographer in all but profession, i.e. I still have a day job as a social worker, and going pro is something I'm absolutely working towards within the next year or so. To keep me going between weddings, I started taking street photos in December 2019. I've shared a few of the images on the hugely supportive Facebook group, and I've got very good responses thus far. I live around an hour away from my nearest city, which is Belfast, and I usually make the journey with a trusty XT3, the 23mm, the 56, twice a week. Given the unavoidable circumstances surrounding COVID-19, I wanted to get your advice on making street photos in the current climate. Now, clearly you can't travel to Belfast for that now. Is it irresponsible? Is it exploitative? Is it a bit of both? I feel it's essential to document important moments in time, but I don't want to be part of the problem and potentially increase the spread of the disease in some way. I would never knowingly leave the house if I felt I was ill, but I appreciate you can be completely asymptomatic and still be contagious. I'd be ever so grateful to get your thoughts, Kev, on the matter. Go forth and shoot, or stay at home and wait this one out. Now, to be fair, this was written, this is how quickly news changes, before it became even tighter in terms of the law. But there are people still shooting as they go out around about, their exercise stroke shooting session. What are your feelings on it?
You know what? Yesterday, one of my friends died from this. So, somebody I used to play rugby with, I have this. My thoughts on it basically are that the government is saying only go outside for essential stuff, and I don't think taking pictures is essential. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I was sorry to hear about your friend as well. You told me about that yesterday. It was awful news.
It's okay.
A lot of people are saying that if they're taking their iPhones or whatever they're taking out with them, it's a bit of social documentary as they're doing their exercise. Should we feel still squeamish about that?
I don't know. I mean, look, the fact is, if you're going for a jog, or you're walking the dogs or whatever, and you've got your iPhone with you, if you're stopping because you think there's an interesting scene or something, then that's no longer your essential activity, is it? And that's where it comes down to. Me personally, I'm not doing it. I'm kind of sticking to the law, if you like. But yeah, I mean, I understand the ambition. I think we said a couple of weeks ago when we first started doing the dailies that there were, I was reading about some photographers who were being stopped, press photographers were being stopped and where's your press accreditation, where's your cards, where's your press cards, etc. Go back in your house. That's it. And we're seeing some amazing things on the internet. I saw this amazing thing the other day in Paris where it looked like a stop motion film, and actually it was moving footage, but it just looked like it was single images, photographs, like for 5 seconds on the screen, and then moved to another part of Paris. Wow. And whilst that's incredibly interesting, there is no way that's essential business, whoever was recording that. No. And, getting your tripod out and, all the sound equipment and all that kind of stuff, that's not essential. It's just not simple as that. And we're going to get a few thousand likes on Facebook or, YouTube out of it. Brilliant. But what's the wider story? What's the wider consequences for that? So me personally, I'd say no, but it's just me.
I haven't posted this yet, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I was out on my morning walk/run, and I came across quite a few chalk drawings on the floor. And the first couple I sort of walked past and just a nice smile, really, because I thought that's great, supporting the NHS, all written in chalk in big bold letters on the sidewalk, as they'd call it in the States, of course. But the further I went, then I started noticing people had put out sheets, and they'd written on the sheets, and people have got quite creative with supporting the NHS. And I took a couple of pictures, but I did feel quite guilty about it. I thought, God, should I be doing this? So I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. And there's so many stories inside anyway, aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. It's, look, we're photographers. It's the natural thing to do, and it's certainly from a kind of photojournalistic point of view. But these are times when you've got to think beyond that. And I know Jonathan, and so I know he's not this kind of person. But there are people out there who are doing this just so they can get some notoriety.
Notoriety
on the internet.
Is it worth giving you the
YouTube,
hold
whatever.
on. You do deserve it for that word.
And that's absolutely the wrong thing to be doing.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
So, but whatever.
Hello, Kevin. Hello, Neil. My name is Mahdi Isfahani. Isfahani, I think I've got that right, from Beirut, Lebanon. I absolutely love the show. Always had a problem sticking to one podcast over a period of time, yet now I can easily find myself binging over 5 or 6 episodes during the week. I'm a landscape street photographer, shooting with the Fujifilm system for 6 years now, and I couldn't be happier. As of last week, I'm trying to go through my work, sorting, categorising before uploading it onto my new website, and I was wondering if you guys follow a certain pattern to display your photos online, i.e. date, colours, mood, location, or maybe you go with photo albums of 3 or more photos in the same location, yada, yada, yada. Do you know what? This yada, 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 by the way, Kev, I'm telling you that this is merch. I'm telling you.
Yada, yada. You'll go have a T-shirt with yada, yada, yada.
I said that the other day. I think I said on the weekend show. But it's become international. If Maddie's saying this in Beirut, that is now international. It's merch worthy.
Yeah.
Anyway, also, Sintui there, he said, I'd like to know your thoughts on the consistency of colours and mood throughout post-processing a landscape or any other kind of photography. Well, let's deal with the first thing, actually. Let's go back to whether you follow a certain pattern to display your photos online, whether it's date, colours, mood, location. I don't, personally. Mine tends to be thrown onto a canvas and see what lands, but...
Yeah, me too, especially when it comes to things like Instagram and stuff. When it comes to blog posts, it's slightly different. So I think both you and I follow this idea of islands of colour. Yes. So, bridal prep might be in colour or it might be in black and white. Ceremony might be in colour or it might be in black and white, rather than breaking those parts of the days up into different finishes. But on Instagram, less so. It's all about the image, the individual image. I sometimes you look at Instagram cover pages and they look incredible, beautiful. I'm thinking of Peter McKinnon.
Oh, God, yeah. He follows a colour code, doesn't he?
Yeah, and his friend, what's the Finnish guy?
Matti?
Matty, Matty.
Matty, I can never say surname. Happy hour.
Matty, happy ending.
Happy hour. Oh, happy hour. Happy hour. Hippie happy. Oh, give up.
Anyway, Matty. But the thing is, let's face it, they're kind of YouTube superstars. So every single one of their pictures is a picture of them looking moody with a different background behind them. Yeah. But how many people actually look at the cover page of an Instagram? You can't really see it on a.
Do you mean the grid? Do you mean the grid?
Yeah, the grid. Yeah, you can't really see it on a phone. You know how many people look on the internet at it? On a computer. So yeah, it doesn't bother me. No, but then I'm just a grumpy middle-aged up man,
Oh, stop it! I haven't been doing it, to be honest. I was considering that on my grid I was going to go black and white colour, black and white colour, black and white colour. And then I haven't really posted since this whole thing happened. I know I should. Shouldn't stop posting on Instagram, should you?
No, I've had my biggest picture this year so far was done a couple of days ago. I think it was either Gemma and Albie having a bit of a cuddle, or it was the dog. One of those two was very high numbers, like 2,000 odd likes or something.
Wow, that is good, isn't it? Yeah.
So I'm not worried about what's going up and what's not going up.
Maddie's extra question was, your thoughts on the consistency of colours and mood throughout your process. And we might have actually solved that with what you just said, really, or any other kind of photography.
I think the islands of colour is an interesting concept, and that's one I stick to pretty religiously. If it's a body of work, whether that's a wedding blog or whether it's a series of news images shot, out on the streets or something, I don't think it's wise to be doing different editing styles across the board, especially different styles of black and whites, for example, and different styles of colours and what have you.
Well, people take that all the way down the line, don't they? I mean, some people will shoot with just two or one. I mean, there are whole films that were shot with just one focal length of lens, isn't there? Really, to keep that consistency. Who was the really? I'm probably getting this wrong. Somebody correct me. Alan Gump will correct us. Was it Space Odyssey that was shot with one focal length? Or was it another film I'm thinking of?
Don't know. I know that Wes Anderson's quite keen on it, isn't he? And his that film, I love that film. We're
doing it again, Kev.
Oh God. The it reminded me of that hotel we stayed in Switzerland. The
one with Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson is The Shining. The Shining.
No, I'm not on about that either. Oh. It's a modern one. The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh yes, yeah,
yes. That is amazingly filmed.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if it's all on one focal length, but the cinematography is beautiful. If you watch that film, watch every single scene is almost perfectly composed.
Yeah.
Left and right, up and down. They're like mirror images of each other. It's incredible. Really, really incredible film to watch. But yeah, so that's Wes Anderson.
There's
The Shining.
There's The Shining. What am I talking about? There's your weekend homework for you then, to watch that movie. Right. Hello, chaps. It's Miguel Vaz again. I sent a question about the Viltrox 85mm a while ago. Neil even had trouble finding the Instagram account, so here it goes. Right. Oh, yes, Instagram.com. Do you remember the Quick Brown Fox that we were chatting about, which we couldn't find? So it is the Quick Brown Fox, and it's PHOX, and I've gone straight to it, and I've found you, and there's as with a lot of Instagram grids at the moment, there's a picture of baking on there. Our house has become like one big bake-off at the moment. Coming out the other end of this, I'm going to be at least 2 or 3 kilos heavier.
Oh, God, me too. Yeah, easily.
This. Yeah. But anyway, there we go. So we got that right now. And by the way, my website is thequickbrownfox.com. Let's get all the mentions in there, which is still at the very beginning. Anyway, my question's about the X Pro 2. Well, we've got here comes a Techo one for you. A Techo one for Kev.
Warning.
I bought one recently, second-hand, and I'm in love with it. But as a huge fan of back button focus on my XT2, I can't get it to work on the X Pro 2. I managed to assign the focus on the back button, but couldn't disable the focus on the shutter button. Am I doing something wrong, Kev?
I have a feeling Miguel emailed me this question directly as well.
Did you
I have a feeling. I might not. Well, somebody else did anyway. The easiest way to do it is to just stick the camera in manual focus mode, and that will do it. You can assign the kind of AF lock buttons and all that kind of stuff, and you can do it different ways. But by far the easiest way is just put the camera in manual focus mode, and then the AF on button or the AFL lock button becomes your focus, and your shutter button is then no longer doing autofocus for you.
There we go. Problem solved. In the old-fashioned language, Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Have you ever heard that expression?
Never. I've heard Bob's your uncle, but never the other way around.
No, you always have to say the two of them together. Didn't you know that? What do you think, Scott?
Stop it.
Okay. Oh, dear. Anyway, let's go to today's... I'm going to call it Hangout now, Kev. And hear about this amazing opportunity, the day that a Magnum great became Rebecca Faith's second shooter. Rebecca, before we start, everything okay with you and your family?
Yes, all good, thank you. We live out in the countryside, so we're feeling quite safe here.
Well, that's "Are you well" has taken on a whole new sort of gravity of salutation these days, isn't it?
Hasn't it? And you hear "stay safe" so much.
Yeah. And well, that's how I end all my emails now. Stay safe. I'm so looking forward to the day I don't have to write stay safe and can just write kind regards like I used to. So,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
So where are you based then? You say you're out in Sticks, but where is out in Sticks?
In Somerset near Cheddar. It's a little village called Shipham. Yeah. So it's very lovely and very pretty. It's right on the Mendips.
Are you bored of people saying, I know Cheddar, that's where the caves are?
Yes, and the cheese, obviously.
Cheddar oh, God. Do you know what? I think of caves are not cheese, but of course it's cheese.
Yeah, but no, that's good. I like that you thought of caves instead of cheese.
Can I ask a daft question? People listening now are going to think, Neil, come on. But I know some cheeses were named after towns where they weren't necessarily made in that town. Red Leicester comes to mind. That comes from Hinckley.
Well, it did. And actually, to bring the caves in, the cheddar was aged in the Cheddar Gorge caves. So, yeah. So they do still make it, and there is a specific shop in Cheddar where you can buy the cave-aged cheese, but it's quite expensive.
I'm going to say, when you go down the caves now, do you find lumps of cheese here and there, just maturing gradually? What the hell is that? So, how have your clients been dealing with all this stuff? Because your weddings, your portraits, your commercial, how have they been dealing with it?
They've all been nice and lovely, and equally I've been obviously just helping them postpone and deal with it as best we can, find new dates. So all of my spring weddings have postponed to autumn, winter, and then into 2021. So yeah, it's a whole new,
it's
new world, isn't it?
It's a new
and then my commercial stuff, that's just come to an end.
Well, we talked a lot. Funnily enough, since you mentioned the commercial, we talked a lot on the show about finding a niche and making your website position you as the expert. If you're a wedding shooter, we've always said, perhaps wrongly now, notwithstanding virus, if you're a wedding shooter, make the site about weddings. If you're commercial, just be commercial. But you're a photographer who shares all those skills on one site, which I would imagine coming out of this is going to be really important.
Yes, yeah. I've often toyed with that idea. Should I have two sites, keeping them separate and everything? But then I think because a lot of my work is word of mouth, when I do a wedding, they go, "Oh, you do commercial work as well." I know I might need you for this job or that job. So it has worked well for me, but I do know other photographers who have separated it, and they would say that that's the best thing to do. It's always hard to know, isn't it?
Well, I'm changing my attitude towards what you've done, because I think of all the times that I've been at weddings, 15 years I've shot weddings, and the amount of conversations I've had with people where they've said, so you're a photographer, is this what you do full time? And they mean by that weddings, and I say, yep, and they say, yeah, but what do you do during the week?
Yeah.
And I say, well, there's lots of other things around this that count. But I wonder how many times what they meant was, or maybe the conversation could have flowed along the lines of, well, I need a few headshots doing.
Yes, absolutely. Some of my best clients, like interior designers, have been my ex-brides. Yeah. Or been people exactly that I've met at weddings, and they go, "Oh yeah, so you do commercial stuff, so could you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah," and you've already got a really good rapport with them because you've been at one of them, their most important day. You've met their family, you know so much about them. So yeah, so it does work well.
Yeah, I agree. So how do you describe your? Well, let's go back to weddings because that's really what we're talking about today. So describe your style for us.
Oh, so very documentary with groups and obviously some nice bride and groom ones. But I always say to my couples, we always have a pre-meet-up, either in person or Skype or whatever. And they choose what groups they want to do and how long they want to spend on bride and groom shots. But I think, as everyone knows, you ask people, you say, "Oh, no, I do documentary." Yeah. And then they give you a list of about 20 group photos. I'm like, yeah, I think we might want to cut that down.
Yeah. It's that balancing act, isn't it, really?
It is, definitely. Because I think it is important to get those groups, because so rare that families get together, isn't it?
We had a photographer on the other day, who I think you might know, actually, is in your neck of the woods, Brad Wakefield. Yeah. And he said, but he's a former press shooter, and he said, well,
Brad, yes.
Yes, you know, Brad. I like to treat most of the day as a documentary thing.
Yes.
That's almost like the news editorial thing. And then when it comes to the portraits, I see that as the feature.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you get those lovely bride and groom portrait shots, you're like, yep, I've got it. Yeah. That's the shots.
Yeah. So do you usually use second shooters, or is it you alone?
So I do, depending on how big the wedding is. Also, if the bride and groom would like one. So yes, I've always liked to use second photographers. Yeah. And when I started out, I always used to have a second photographer out of nerves. Because obviously just the pressure is high and you want to get it right. So I would pay for a second photographer out of the budget. But nowadays, obviously, I charge the couple, so down to them more if they want to pay for them.
Now, you've had a rather special second shooter join you.
I sure have.
Martin Parr. Now, we know that bit because we've already talked about it on the show, but I'm fascinated to know how you ended up saying, yeah, come along, Martin, you can second shoot for me.
Yeah. Well, it was totally a kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing. So, well, basically, So you probably know this, but Martin Parr's got a foundation in Bristol.
Yeah.
So I became a supporter where you pay your annual fee. And you go to lots of talks and stuff. I'd always hoped to meet Martin because when I was at university, there was a lecturer who lectured me in my final degree show, and he'd given me Martin Parr's phone number. So this was 22 years ago, and I didn't call him. I'd always kicked myself ever since that I'd had his number, but never had the guts to call him. Anyway, so when the foundation happened, became a supporter at such a great foundation, went to lots of talks, and then sort of slowly saw Martin there. I was like, oh, hi. And then I said to him, one time I said, so I feel like we should have met 20 years ago because Gerhard Stromberg gave me your number, but I never called. I was too nervous. And he went, oh, yeah. And I said, I do wedding photography. So if you'd ever like to second me, then you're very welcome. I'd be happy to have you along. And he just said, yeah. He said, if you ever get a high-end wedding, let me know and I'll come along and shoot with you. I was like, no way.
See, I'm surprised he said high-end wedding because I would have thought Martin would have thought, do you know what? I fancy a real spit and sawdust down a pub wedding.
Yes, totally. But I think, because he's done quite a lot of stuff with the Oxford universities, right. Where I'm not going to get this right now, but where you have lots of posh students doing crazy stuff.
Yes.
So I think whether he was going for that kind of angle, but yeah, so that's kind of what he said.
So was he looking for crazy and lots of very well dressed people lying around drunk in the grass?
Yes, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. And I think it was complete perfect timing because Ian Weldon, I'm not a wedding photographer. He had an exhibition coming up at the foundation. And so I think wedding photography was probably very much in Martin's mind at that time. Yeah. So serendipity, that was the word.
Well, yeah, and I mean the result is that you got Martin, and that Ian didn't.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I know, it was crazy. And then so obviously the second part was trying to get a high-end wedding. I was like, oh my gosh, so that's going to be that's quite a brief to have, but fortunately I'm recommended by Orchard Lee,
yes, beautiful place.
Yes. Oh, good. Have you shot there?
I've shot there a few times. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, lovely. Well, as you know, it's lovely. So they've recommended me for years. So I've got to know Chris, the owner, over 10 years or so now, and he asked me to shoot his wedding at Orchard Lee, and so I thought, perfect. Yeah. I'll have Martin. He can come with me and shoot Chris's wedding.
Did guests recognise him? Did they? And did the bride and groom know that you were bringing this very much revered photographer along with you?
Well, I did tell them. I said, I've got this legendary photographer who would be willing to come and shoot your wedding with me. Is that okay with you? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. Who is he? I was like, does nobody know who?
You see, outside our circles, I mean, we look at photographers. I mean, I absolutely. I would love to spend just 2 minutes in the presence of Salgado, and of course, he means so much to me and many other photographers. But if you took him out of the photographic space and we were just at a general meeting or something, I wonder how many people would know of him. Of course, they might know his pictures. They might have seen his pictures unwittingly, but not necessarily know him. Yeah, exactly that. And that was the case. It did make me giggle. There was a few times where people gave Martin their camera phone that was,
to take a photo of them. Oh my God, you've got no idea who has got your phone and taken a photo of you.
That was going to be my question. I had that written down here. Did any guests say, "Oi, photographer, would you mind taking a picture of me?"
Yeah, totally. It was hilarious. So obviously I got the shots of him taking photos of people on their camera phones, like with me while I was giggling while I was photographing.
What did you feel? What did the experience make? Were you nervous about it? Did he offer advice or mentoring?
I was completely nervous, obviously, because it's my bar. And it was quite a high pressure wedding in that I couldn't mess it up because it was the owner of Orchard Lee, and I get quite a few weddings through there. So it was completely intense. But yeah, no, we kind of played it very much that Martin did his thing, I did my thing, and then I let him, and then I was obviously watching what he was doing. But then when we had the lunch break, we came together and he was showing me what he shot, and he gave me a few tips here and there. But Martin's style is so different to how I would shoot a wedding, you know. But he was shooting on Canon 5D Mark IV with a 24-70 L series lens, and the Gary Fong throughout, which was great, and it gave him that classic Martin Parr look.
Yeah. Did you retouch the wedding, including his shots?
Yes.
Right.
Well, no. So Martin sent me 45 of his shots. Best moment of my life.
45? Only 40? Martin, do you know how many shots we take as wedding photographers? 45? That's not even 2 hours work, Martin.
Actually, because I'd had a conversation with Martin and Ian Weldon at the foundation, and Martin could not believe how many photos we as wedding photographers take at a wedding. He was like, what? You take hundreds? We were like, yeah. And so then when he came along to it, he was like, Becky, I'm not going to give you hundreds of photos. Yeah. I was like, that's fine, Martin. Anything you give me is brilliant.
Now, tell me he didn't leave after the meal, that he actually saw it through to the dancing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he was because I'd actually asked Chris if we could stay at Orchard Lee as well, because I knew that Martin would want to get those night shots.
Yeah.
So yeah, he stayed for the meal, had a few drinks, and stayed for the first dance and some dancing and whatnot. But I kind of thought that, I'd hoped that we would get to a point we'd be able to put the cameras down, have a few drinks and a bit of a laugh. But as you know, as we all know, you're just exhausted. Yeah. And by the end of the wedding, we all just went our separate ways, and that was that.
Well, I'm writing down a few names that I'd certainly like to second shoot for me. I've got, I wonder whether Testino or Bailey or McCullin might consider it.
Yeah, definitely.
But having had this experience with Martin, which sounds like it was amazing.
It was.
Who's next on your hit list to ask?
Well, I did actually meet Don McCullin at the Mark Foundation. Right. He did a talk, and he's still doing all the printing at home. Yeah. So, wet printing. So I did ask him, I said, look, because he lives in Somerset as well. I said, if you ever need any help with the developing, because I learned film at university, so I can come along and I can help you print. He never got back to me, though.
Maybe you should have just asked, Don, do you fancy second shooting a wedding?
Yeah.
Next time.
Absolutely.
Next time. Well, look, it's what an amazing experience, and you must feel very lucky. And do you know what, though? At the same time, he was given an opportunity by you, and you shouldn't forget that either.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's true, actually. And one of the guys at the foundation, they said he's a really approachable guy. And and he did have an opportunity with me. I don't know if that sounded right or not.
Great opportunity. So Martin Parr would be your choice. Definitely. Or haven't mentioned him in the hangout there. Salgado. I mean, can you imagine that? I've really got into a sort of an odd world if I ever thought that the man behind Genesis, and I don't mean the band, I mean the book, would ever come second shoot a wedding. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Can you imagine it? My God,
dreamland. Anyway, what are you up to this weekend?
I'm just going to stay in this weekend.
Yeah, again.
I think so. Just chill out. I've got a couple of mentoring sessions I need to crack on with.
Oh, good. Well, that's good.
Yeah. What are you doing?
I think I'll stay in as well. We got a pub quiz tonight.
Oh, yeah. That sounds good.
Well, I have been doing the pub quiz with some FujiCast Facebook people. So this will be news to them that I may not be there tonight because I've been hijacked for another pub quiz. But don't go getting all funny on me because this is a family one. And, of course, it's virtual in terms of pub. It's using the international new currency of going out known as Zoom conferencing.
Yeah.
If I can make the second one with the FujiCast team in the Facebook group, that'd be fantastic. A double pub quiz when I can't even leave the house. Weird.
Well, very, very endeavouring of you.
And then that's it, really. It's going to be in the UK where we are, Kev, it looks like it's going to be a nice weekend weather-wise.
Yeah, I think it is. It's nice here at the minute, actually. It's nice and sunny, and just sat in the garden and had some coffee. Yeah, it's all nice. Very good, very good. Well, I hope everybody has a nice weekend, as best they can anyway.
Oh, by the way, Gemma, is she going to come on the show sometime? Can Gemma come out to play? Is Gemma going to come on the show?
Yeah, she's going to come this weekend, I think. Come on the show this weekend.
She's going to come on the show this weekend?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic. So what, co-presenting tomorrow or something, or Sunday?
Yeah, we can do tomorrow or Sunday.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
He's just
is she booked?
blend into one.
Yeah, you have to do your virtual. How does this work, by the way? You go to virtual church on a Sunday?
Yeah, so we... well, funny enough, we saw while we were walking the dogs the other day, we saw our parish priest, and he looked at me longingly and was like, you must know how to do live streaming of things. And I was like, I don't really know how to do live streaming of entire masses.
No. I'm a little bit concerned that your parish priest looked at you longingly.
Yeah, and no, bless him. And anyway, so we've got kind of virtual services and things like that. And of course, it's Easter, so it was an Easter next weekend, and what they call the Easter Triduum, which is the three elements of Easter. They're all going to live stream them and get as many people as possible to see it, which is good.
You've been doing virtual mass then, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I know it's not crisps, but I always think it's crisps. And
crisps.
We know the crisps and wine thing, crisp on the tongue, and I was thinking, have you?
Communion.
Yeah, the communion. Yeah, have you been sort of, I suppose, inventing your own way of doing communion?
Yeah, I've been doing it with a glass of wine and an Oreo biscuit.
Oh, such times. Anyway, all right. Well, I'm looking forward to speaking to your wife over the weekend. Then,
I shall tear up for that for you.
Yes. And no more eating dodgy foods by the sound of it. You sound so different to the way you were yesterday. And I know it's been a challenging. In all seriousness, though, I know it's been a challenging 48 hours for you. So
good.
Have a nice weekend, Kev.
You too.
The FujiCast is an independent loading zone production. Email the show with your questions and words of wisdom to click@fujicast.co.uk. Email any complaints and political nonsense to our wives, who will deal with your comments in their own good time and in their own good way.